NBA players will continue the season in the bubble as soon as Friday. So what was the point of that boycott? I saw a million tweets and comments from people who did not get what the players' boycott actually did. And I can admit, I heard the games were stopped, I listened to the Bucks players' statement, and I didn't really see how that would change anything either. In this video, I'll explain my opinion of the boycott and where the NBA goes from here. Hey, it's Casey. Welcome to AM Hoops. Hit subscribe and notification bells, all that. Today, we're actually not going to talk necessarily about NBA basketball because it just felt wrong to come on here today, especially today, and make a video that didn't have to do with the boycott. There's a lot to break down here, but it sounds like, yes, the NBA is back. We are going to get games as soon as Friday, at least by the weekend. And the players and owners are going to come to some sort of an agreement here. But most of us have never experienced anything like this before. For example, here's a comment on one of my recent posts. At the end of the day, they're just a basketball organization. They can't do anything when it comes to changing laws that protect dirty police officers. In other words, stopping basketball isn't changing anything. And I actually thought the same thing. Then I heard what Chris Webber had to say, and it blew my mind.
We know nothing is going to change. We get it. If Martin Luther King got shot and risked his life, Medgar Evers, if we've seen this and all of our heroes constantly taken down, we understand it's not going to end. But that does not mean, young men, that you don't do anything. Don't listen to these people telling you don't do anything because it's not going to end right away. You are starting something for the next generation and the next generation to take over. Do you have to be smart? Yes. Do you have to make sure that you have a plan? Yes. Do you have to be articulate about that plan? Yes. All of those things. But that's what you're going to do. They're professionals. They know how to be the best of themselves. And so I applaud it. I applaud it because it is the young people. It is the young people leading the way. And I applaud them.
And that's it right there. I mean, that is the value of listening, right? Like, I listened to what Chris Webber had to say, and I actually learned something. These players, some of them at least, this movement is bigger than basketball or money to them. They want to put it all on the line so that they can look back at this time in history and have zero regrets about what they did or did not do. And my love of basketball games is not bigger than that. They're using the only tool they have to affect change, and that is taking away our entertainment and our sense of life as usual. Look, obviously I want my basketball, but if these guys are going to throw away money and playing the game they love for what they believe in, who am I to tell them what to do? I 100% back what they are doing, not playing games, or even if they decided to end the season, which they did not. Now, one thing that Webber said was they need a plan, and it sounds like they're coming up with one. The people with the most influence in basketball are team owners. They have political connections, they have billions of dollars. For example, the Bucks refused to play. They immediately got the Wisconsin State Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General on a Zoom call in their locker room. Why? Because team owner Mark Lazary made a phone call to hook them up. The point is, the only leverage these players have over powerful team owners is their decision to play or to not play, and they use that leverage. I mean, this is kind of like Colin Kaepernick taking a knee when you think about it. Some people said, okay, we're fine with a protest as long as it's not that, because that crosses a line. It turns out, peacefully crossing that line was the only way to get some people's attention. Now, people are saying, oh, go ahead, peacefully protest, wear shirts, put Black Lives Matter on the court, put a phrase on the back of your jersey. Anything but not playing, that is crossing a line. Well, it may be that not playing, even for a couple of days, was the only way to get their attention. But they are going to play and continue the season. And so many crazy reports came out in the last 24 hours about what it was like behind the scenes. And I think the craziest one was all of the players left in the bubble got together in a ballroom and they discussed and they voted on whether or not to continue the season that first night. And the Lakers and Clippers were the only teams to say, let's end the season right now. And then Udonis Haslem of the Miami Heat said, okay, well, let's discuss how we're going to continue the season without him. And LeBron James got so offended that he got up and left the room. But you know what? Udonis Haslem was right. This season was never going to end. They would have continued the playoffs even if the LA teams did leave the bubble. I've seen a lot of people say, how could they keep playing without LeBron and Kawhi? One reason, money. Being in the bubble costs about $1 million per day. They're spending $100 million total on the bubble alone. Then the actual games on TV are saving about $1 billion in TV money they would have lost if the season didn't restart. There is way too much on the line for the NBA to just shut things down. It's the same thing with individual players too. LeBron and Kawhi can afford not to play and still be set for life financially. I get that younger, less established players want to keep getting paychecks. It would have been really cool, actually, if the most veteran, richest players would have offered to pay the salary of younger players. Even beyond the financials, other players brought up the fact that they gave up so much in sacrifice to even make this bubble happen. At this point, there are a lot of family members about to exit quarantine and enter the bubble. They made sacrifices too. But for a second there, it kind of looked like the Clippers and Lakers were going to leave. And if they did, the Clippers and Lakers first round opponents would have just moved on. So the Trailblazers would have faced the winner of OKC Houston, and the Mavericks would have played the Nuggets Jazz winner. Would there have been an asterisk on the Bucks championship? Yes. No one would have taken that seriously. I mean, this isn't like the Raptors winning last year because Golden State got injured. That was a basketball situation. This was a society situation, and we would have just said, well, the Bucks won an NBA tournament, not the NBA championship. So there was a second meeting this morning, and that's when reports started to come out that said, yes, they will continue the playoffs, but it sounds like they do have a plan of action. They're going to get team owners on the phone later today and try to use some of their political and financial influence. And if that happens, then this boycott was successful. And I'm actually really proud of the players who are willing to put it all on the line to affect some change because they're so outraged. I mean, they would have looked like such hypocrites if they would have said they'll do anything, but they didn't act like it. The first ones to jump in there were the Milwaukee Bucks. They just decided to protest by not coming out of the locker room. They didn't even tell the Magic, who were still warming up on the court. Some Magic players demanded an explanation, but I get it. That recent shooting that sparked all this happened 45 minutes away from where the Bucks play. It must have felt wrong to take the court, and they probably didn't decide until minutes before the game. Still, even after all this, some people will say that sports and politics should be separate, but they don't know the history of sports. I mean, Muhammad Ali was put in military prison for not fighting in Vietnam. John Carlos and Tommy Smith raised their fists at the Olympics. The Celtics protested an exhibition game in the 1960s because their black players were denied the same rights as white players on their road trip. So even though I didn't like our games being taken away the last couple of days, I applaud these NBA players because before the bubble, they almost didn't even come in because of the social injustice going on. And then when it continued, their actions backed up their words. I think if there's one thing that we've learned from the Colin Kaepernick protest is that any peaceful protest that is also uncomfortable is the only one that works. Support AM Hoops and click subscribe. Don't miss a daily NBA video.